Well, hello, internet friends near and far. Welcome to another episode of Parks and Conversation. This is a podcast where we watch an episode of Parks and Recreation and then we talk about it. And I'm Jason, and I'm joined all the way across town by the power of the internet by my friend Jeremy. Jeremy, how are you today?
I'm well. How are you?
Also well.
Good. Glad we got that out of the way.
Send your emails to parksandconversation@gmail.com.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Listener, recently I made a switch. Jeremy, I don't know if I ever even told you this. I switched from our previous provider host to a different host. And
can't believe you're telling this live.
Yeah. I didn't want you to blow up at me again. And everything went great. It was easy. And so
great story.
Now, now Joe Rogan and us, we are colleagues.
Finally.
So, yeah. We work for the same company. Only he's getting paid and I'm giving this company resources for free. So potato.
Wins all around.
Which is not what I'm getting paid from Spotify. Potatoes or potatoes. But yeah, it went smoothly.
Not even peanuts.
But listener, if you hear this, then it worked for you. If you're not hearing this, let me know how I can help.
It's a great start. This is perfect.
So, yeah, it's all. But they say like keep both open for like a month, and the month has gone by, and there have been no problems. So, I'm feeling pretty good about it. So
I don't even know how to feel.
I know that's why I didn't actually tell you.
A while to process. It's a big change. You know how I feel about change.
I know. I just wanted you to I wanted to rip the Band-Aid off publicly.
Perfect.
Which is
yes, you took me to an online restaurant, basically, in front of everybody. Change providers.
Yeah.
Don't make a big deal about it.
Look, I brought you here so you wouldn't freak out.
Great.
This isn't working, Fireside.
I'm getting the lobster.
Yeah, do it. All right. Get it. We have so much more money now that we're not paying Fireside. So
got that Joe Rogan money.
I mean, somewhere.
What are we talking about today?
Well, we're talking about Joe Rogan.
Awesome.
Seems like all of Spotify is talking about, not Spotify, Twitter is talking about Joe Rogan wanting to debate a scientist. So let's talk about that.
I don't want to do that.
Okay, I won't either because
I watch Parks and Rec specifically to get away from stuff like that.
Oh, I watch it I mainline both at the same time. I put on my Joe Rogan podcast. It's usually like 8 hours long.
He doesn't.
And then I watch an episode of Parks and Rec, and it's kind of like it's a
cleanse.
Well, I do it at the same time, so it's like a Pavlovian thing. So I don't love anything too much because nothing in this world will last. But today, what we are going to talk about is season 7, episode 2.
Man, I'm sad now.
Ron and Jammy. And
I mean, if they can't last.
What's that?
I said, if they can't make it, what's the hope for us?
If Joe Rogan and Peter Hotez can't make it?
No, Jeremy Jamm and Tammy too.
Yeah, that was a relationship that was doomed from the start of writing the script.
Yeah,
they knew these Hollywood bigwigs. They know they're just trying to manipulate our hearts and our lives with these stories of people that we love.
It's working.
Falling into foibles and getting hoisted by their own petards.
Can
I still say petard?
I don't think you can say that.
Oh, okay. I won't. I'll stop.
Okay.
So in this episode, Ron and Leslie have to come to a temporary truce to rescue a former enemy in Jeremy Jamm, which is excellent. And then we find April having a crisis in her life about her career, and it has something to do with the moons of Saturn. And then we see Tom also facing a crisis of sorts as he's realizing that all of his success is meaningless if he doesn't have anyone to share it with. And so him and Andy go on a road trip to Chicago. So Yeah, so that's what we're looking at today. So let's why don't we look at those three stories in this order, Jeremy? We'll start with Ben and April,
Yeah.
and then we'll go to Tom and Andy,
Sounds good.
and then we'll run the Ron, Leslie, Jeremy story.
Only option left.
That's of the three. So we meet Ben and Joan as they are giving Joan a sidewalk square.
Yeah, it was like a mosaic of her face on the sidewalk, like a Hollywood Square star thing.
Yeah, like a walk of fame for Pawnee.
Right.
And it seems like Joan's the only one who has one. So, because I mean, she's the biggest star in town. And so Ben is apologizing, being unable to meet some of their requests. One, which I love, is they couldn't get a bottle of Chateau Marmont because that's a hotel in Los Angeles, which I love that detail. And Buddy Holly can't sing because he's been famously dead for 50 years or 60 years. And Joan is like, no, this isn't true. No way. But then we come to find out that April is a huge fan of Joan and her memoirs. And so this is her 9th memoir that April is getting signed at this event. And Joan's like, oh, it'd be my pleasure to sign that. Did you say your name was Glenn? And so
April says yes. And she goes, that's pretty. Glenn.
And then we get this talking head of April talking about how Joan has always been a train wreck, but the last 3 years that we have not seen because of the time jump, she's gone off the deep end. So doing a show from rehab where she's interviewing the other people and hey, like, you were a successful attorney. And then you hit rock bottom. And then the person's like, this is supposed to be anonymous. And then she gave all of her audience a car that they had to fight over. And it cuts to the scene of people just fighting in a convertible. And it was pretty excellent. Joan's just standing there with a microphone. And then the last one is calling all of her ex-boyfriends while sitting on a washing machine. Oh, it is. Joan is amazing. And so April is like, I hope Joan is my real mom because she's just so wonderful. So then Joan gives her speech and starts by saying, thank you, Commissioner Gordon, people of Gotham. And Ben's like, okay, she thinks she's in Batman. And Joan says, like, everything comes from this is just because she loves being on TV and she's known what she wants to do since she was 10 years old. And that is the path to a happy life, which cuts to April listening to this. And she's like kind of pensive. And then Joan's last note that we get from her speech is, on a separate note, I think that America should have a purge night. And then it cuts to April saying, like, do I even like my job? And so now we're like, okay, what's April's deal? Is she being influenced by the gravitational pull of Saturn? We'll find out. So Ben comes to see April at work, and April is upset, and she's like, everything Joan said freaked me out, which it should, based on what we have heard of what Joan said. But she's like, my whole life has just been a random series of events, and I don't even know if I like what I'm doing. I'm the regional director of regional whatever. And so Ben's like, all right, well, I will help you find what you want to do. And April's first suggestion is, I'm just going to go live under a bridge and ask people riddles before they cross. So,
see, at least she's trying to be a real troll, right, versus one of those lame internet ones.
Yeah. That would be great, though, if you, like, comment moderation was, like, if you want to troll people online, you have to answer a riddle first. Like a CAPTCHA sort of thing. But it's like the riddle is like, what's my favorite color? And it's a robot asking you that. So it's like, can robots have favorite colors?
Blue, no green.
Yeah, like that kind of trolling. Because then, like, it would really cut down on those comments because most trolls are idiots.
Yeah. Tell me how you really feel.
Yeah. I don't I don't think the internet is for everybody. I think we should have a purge night on the internet.
There you go.
And
clear the browser history of the internet.
Oh man. Yes, let's do it. I think people should have to apply for internet.
Yeah, like a driver's license.
Like a driver's license or a gun.
Sure.
And
driver's license would be harder, but sure.
Yeah. And then you should have to renew it, over and over again. Like a driver's license, unlike a gun. Anyway. I've got feelings. So Ben says, do you remember what Joan said at the ceremony?
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't count it doesn't count as stripping if no one pays you. Yeah, she said that, but
she did say that. Yeah. So
Good point,
it's
Joan.
like, what did you always want to do since you were 10 is what Ben says. And then we cut to them in a funeral home, and April is reading a magazine at a funeral home. And it says here, the future of caskets may just be biodegradable plastic. And Ben is visibly uncomfortable in the way that only Scott Adam can convey. Like, he's so good at this. Adam Scott. And so I was like, are you chilly? I'm chilly, I think. And then Dan, the mortician, comes in, and Ben's like, I'm Ben, this is April, and I'm scared of death.
Get it out there.
And so Dan is like, oh, well, you're going to love it here. People are dying to get in. And April lights up at this wonderful death pun. And he's like, oh, we'll start down at the cadaver chute. And April again is like, oh, the cadaver chute? Come on. And Ben looks like he's going to die. I did a funeral about a year and a half ago for a family. And it was just at the cemetery just down the road from my house.
Mm-hmm.
So listener, go to a cemetery, and just kind of walk around. I might live by that. And the funeral directors that all of them were working on this service. I don't know why. But they were all very funny. I was not prepared for that. It was one of the best experiences I've ever had was talking to these funeral directors. This one person was like, she was like, well, I wanted to be a OBGYN, but that was a lot more work. And so I thought I'd just go to the end of the process.
Oh, jeez.
I'm like, wow. So anyway,
that's forward thinking, man.
Yeah. So Dan was right on the right tone here in funeral director experience that I've had. Way to go, Dan. So they go down to the body processing space, I guess. I don't know what the words are. And Dan's like, well, hopefully we get a body so I can show you how the really fun part, draining. And Ben again is like, oh, I hate this so much. And April tries to open at one of the doors, and she's like, can I touch a dead body? And Ted's like, whoa, that takes about at least a year. You got to go to school. You got 2 years of school, a year-long apprenticeship, and most of it is just paperwork and filing. And April is immediately deflated. Why is every job just paperwork?
Hey, it's a living.
Yes, Dan. Nailed it, Dan. So April's like, well, I guess we're just going to go. I'm going to stay at my current job and just get old and die there. End up here being embalmed by some weirdo who had to go to school for 3 years just to cut my guts open.
Mm-hmm.
And let's go. And Ben runs out of there so fast. And Dad's like, okay, have a good one. Yeah. So that first effort was not going to do it. So April's back in the office, and Donna's visiting her. And Donna, she's like, what am I going to do? If I work around corpses isn't even right for me, then nothing is. And Donna says, it's Saturn's return. And she talks about how Saturn takes about 29 years to go around the sun. And by the time it comes back around to when you were born, you've been through so much. There's a lot of self-discovery and turmoil, all kinds of different stuff. And she's like, when I was your age, I got banned from every riverboat in Germany, which sounds like quite a feat.
That's a lot of turmoil.
Yeah. Yeah. So Donna is trying to help her see, like, life changes. And, you could call it Saturn's return, but I would try to not tie too much to any kind of astronomical or astrological force, other than just saying, like, you're older now. So anyway, that's just me. So Ben comes and is like, hey, what are you up to? He's like, oh, just regionally directing the Midwest, whatever, of who cares. And Jerry shows up and like, isn't it great? Can you believe we get to do this? I would do this for free. And then he spills all like his pitcher of coffee or something.
Like a whole carafe of coffee.
Yeah. And Jerry's like, or Donna's there. He's like, I do miss you, Terry. Let me get some napkins. So they go clean that up. And Ben's like, April, you looked at one horrifying job. He's like, I'll help you find something. And April's like, what? Okay, but you can't tell Leslie I might leave. She'll have a heart attack. And he's like, I promise. And she's like, why are you even helping me? And Ben's like, well, because you're my friend. And I'm doing what I love and I love it. And I know how hard it is to get to there. So I want to help you get there. I want you to be happy. And he's like, you're my friend. And April's like, no, I'm not. I never cared for you. And then Ben gets up to leave, and April like gets up and hugs him, and Ben is just like, wow, you're very strange today. And look at Donna. Donna looks at camera. Saturn's return. So yeah, but yeah, so Ben and April are going to go on a journey to find April her dream job. So yeah,
I love it. That was such a sappy, heartwarming moment. But again, it's these silly things that just make the show so like awesome. I was watching it with my youngest, and she's just like, oh, I was like, oh, that's good. See, as gross as Tammy is, this show is lovely.
Yeah. And also, like, Ben and April are a good pairing as far as characters go, because they're so personality wise just so different.
Yeah.
So they really do offset each other really well. But I like when they were in Washington, D.C., like Ben was doing what he loved and April was there for that. And so this is an opportunity now for Ben to kind of reciprocate and say, like, you were here for me as I was trying to find myself. So I'm going to be here for you as you're trying to find yourself. So it was great. I loved it. Loved it. You ready to go to the Andy story?
Yes.
Or the Tom story, I guess. Because Andy is at Tom's Bistro and he's reading an article about how awesome Tom is. And he's like, entrepreneur bachelor Tom Haverford is making quite a splash in the culinary world, and we expect even bigger things from him in 2018. Tom, what does culinary mean? And so Tom is happy. He's like, it means it's a celebration. And so drinks for everybody. And then Andy's like, yeah, let me get some chicken parm and lasagna on the side and the spaghetti to go on the house. So, and then somebody like pans out and somebody is saying yes because somebody was proposing and made Tom have feelings, because that's the fourth person to propose in his establishment this month. And so like, I need to find somebody. And Andy's like, are you bummed? I got a quick fix. Let's get hammered. And he reaches behind the bar. He's like, everything here is free. So Tom and Andy are drinking, and Tom's realization is he must be the first person ever to have money, power, and notoriety, but feel still empty. I love
probably.
I love Tom's narcissism mixed with his ignorance of like how the rest of the world actually is. Right. Compared to Andy's optimism mixed with ignorance. Perfect. Like that, their pairing is also wonderful because both are operating from a place of ignorance. One is trying too hard, and one is not trying at all. And one is like cynical, and the other is like this just golden retriever of a person. And so
let's just go and do it. It'll work out. It's fun.
Yeah, it'll be fine. And so Andy's like, maybe you already know who you're looking for, and opens up his Grizzle page on his phone, and is like, what about her? She's cute. He's like, that's my cousin. What about her? He's like, that's my dad. And
what's wrong with you?
And then they get a message from Lucy, Tom's ex-girlfriend, all the way back from season 3 and season 2 and season 3. And she's living in Chicago now. And she writes, hey, Tom, saw the article. You boss, let's catch up soon. Miss you. And Andy sees this as a sign. And here they are talking about a woman for Tom's life, a partner. And Lucy just messages out of nowhere. And he's like, we got to go to Chicago. And Tom's like, Andy, think about what you're saying right now, because it's the smartest idea anyone's ever had. Let's go. So
you redeem yourself.
They head off to Chicago. And next we see them, they're in the back of a cab. And the driver says, all right, we're here. And we go, where are we? Chicago. That'll be $830, which is a lot. And so Tom immediately regrets it. It's like, turn around, go home. And he's like, no, you got to pay me and get out of my cab. And so Andy gets out, like, pay the man. And he just yells out, the Big Apple, which is not Chicago's name. And
Beantown.
What's that?
Beantown.
Yeah, that'll be later. Yeah. Yeah. So
the Windy City.
That's what it's called. Yes. Do you know why?
Home of the deep dish pizza.
Yep, that's exactly why. It's the Windy City because of the pizza.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been to Chicago?
I have not.
Oh, it's really cool.
I want to go to there.
I really like it. I would go back. I cannot live there. Sometimes you go on vacation or you go on a trip, you're like, oh, this place is great. I would love to live here.
Yeah.
But the first night that I was in Chicago, I was like, I can't live here. It smells like beef. Like
hey, for some people, that's a bonus.
Well, yeah, I love beef. It smelled like good cooking of beef. But I was also like super hungry all the time. Like everything smells so good. I can't live here.
That's why their pizza has to be extra thick.
Yeah. And I ordered one, not knowing how big it was going to be.
Yeah.
And I ate that for 3 days because I had an Airbnb like right across the street from the pizza place. So the first day I was like, I'm going to get this pizza. And then I was like, oh, this is my life. All there is pizza now.
You need anything else? Yeah. A couple napkins and 5 other people help me eat it.
I love Mitch. So they, now they're in Chicago and Tom is regretting it. And he's like, you can't just show up after not talking to somebody for 5 years. And then, be in a different city. That's what murderers do before they murder someone. And then we hear Tom and there's Lucy. And she's like, what are you doing here? You're not going to murder me, are you? It's like, no, I'm doing stuff. And he's totally like flummoxed. And so Andy comes in to save the day, talking about how Tom is going to help him try to find a place to live because he just got a job here. And he's like, hey, since we saw your message and we're like, let's go say hi to Lucy since we're already here in Chicago. And Tom's like, yes, that's the deal.
I love it. So like right there, it's like, Andy, awesome. Like you came through, perfect clarity. Like you read the situation, came up with a great excuse. Boom. Let's move forward.
First time, last time. And it doesn't even last that long because what job is it? Head coach of the Chicago Bulls.
It's such a great setup. It's so great joke.
And Tom's like, no, he's working at a nonprofit. He's like, no, am I? What? Oh, that sucks. So there's a joke earlier in this series where he's like, I worked as a shoe shinist for a year and I never made a profit. Right. So Lucy is like, well, I'm still working, but after, let's hang out. Meet me here in an hour. And Tom's like, yeah, that sounds great. We'll go get a little Chicago deep dish pizza and go watch the Bears.
No.
And he's like, no. I'm sorry I started doing that.
Yeah. As soon as it came out, I knew it was wrong.
No. So Lucy and Andy are walking, and she's like, I think you were going to like it here. Everybody's in a really good mood now because of the Cubs winning the series. So, fun fact: this episode was released in 2014. The Chicago Cubs, for like 86 years, were famously terrible and full of disappointment. However, in 2016, the Chicago Cubs did in fact win the World Series, making the writers' prediction that they would win the World Series by 2017 come true.
That's amazing.
That was amazing. I just
which has to come directly from Michael Schur, the reason why we're doing this podcast in the first place, because I mean he's a huge sports nut. I'm not saying he's can predict
like
the future
or something. Oh,
what's that?
Like he's not huge. He's like
no, he's not a giant like Mr. Peanut. That's weird. I mean, it's just a giant anthropomorphic peanut. We've talked about this before, right? Like he's a really like he loves sports, and he had a blog, or has a blog. It's kind of like been he's not updating it anymore, but he wrote under the name Ken Tremendous.
That was Michael Schur?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, very, very funny sports writing, and he is a super nerd, especially about baseball. I think it's almost all baseball. So just the fact that came true, it's like hang it up, like retire after that. You called it.
I'm glad he didn't hang it up though.
Oh, me too. Or else we'd be done after this series.
I'm glad he kept working. Even with Rutherford Falls, I'm glad he made it. I don't like it, but I'm glad he made it. Like the music of Sting. I've never listened to any of it, but I'm glad he's out there doing it. So Lucy's talking about how everything's really great, and Andy's like, yeah, it seems really nice, but I'm really going to miss Pawnee. I mean, my wife's there, for crying out loud.
And Lucy just kind of just rolls right over that.
Yeah. And she's like, well, tell me, I heard things have changed. And Tom's like, yeah, new businesses, Grizzle. We got free tablets, Wi-Fi, phone. You can watch Hitch 2 anytime, anywhere. Now
that also hasn't come true yet.
Yeah, we still don't have a Hitch 2. But I do love that they're throwing out these sequel ideas. So like last week was Jason Bourne reboot with Kevin James.
Yeah.
And now Hitch 2, which also had Kevin James. So I love the weird consistency of all of this. And Lou's like, wow, that's the dream. It's like, I kind of would love to move back. And he's like, got me really missing Pawnee now. I don't know what to do. Am I making the right decision? And so I don't know if he's trying to like give Tom and himself an out for not going and working for the Bulls.
Right.
Or if he really thinks he has to move here. Like there are times with my dog where like she thinks like, and I have a golden retriever who's snoring noisily right now on the floor or just a few feet away from me. Where I think she does like really think like, this is my new life now.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
oh, this is where I live.
Yeah. So I think Andy has that golden retriever mentality. Like, well, they told me it was happening this way. So
yeah, but you made it up.
Going on. Yeah.
He's believing his own lie.
Yeah. So Tom and Andy are talking, and Tom's like, man, it's been so fun hanging out with Lucy. She's the best. And Andy's like, yeah. And she's buying us stuff. It's awesome. Make your move. Ask her out. And he's like, I don't know how that works. And like, well, life's all about taking risks. Look at me. I'm moving to Chicago. It just does. And Lucy comes over like one double XL for Andy and one kids XL for Tom. So Tom's like, hey, can I ask you something? Yeah. And she's like, well, maybe, things are getting crazy. Can you come and work for me at my restaurant? At my company. And
he kind of chickened out right there.
Yeah.
Like he was on the cusp of asking like, hey, what's up? Like, what's up with you? Like, do we have a chance or, and just changed it into the job thing.
Yeah. Which, seems like it, as her response, like I'd be great. I have to talk to my boyfriend about it first.
Oh.
So it's one of those things where it's like, oh, yeah, good thing he didn't say, will you go out with me?
Right.
But yeah, so So Tom's kind of bummed that there's a boyfriend, but he's like, this is all perfect. Everything's worked out just as I'd hoped. And they're at Millennium Park in Chicago, which is that big bean-looking cloud metal thing.
Yep.
And so Andy's over there. It's very reflective. It's very cool. And he points at it and is like, this is why they call it Beantown, huh? So, also no, Andy. No. So then at the end, Lucy is at Tom's restaurant and signing papers, joining the team. And Tom's like, we're totally lucky to have you. Let's fill out some paperwork. I still don't know what claiming allowance means. I always just put 6. So far, so good. And looks like you are totally going to jail. And cut to Andy saying this couldn't have worked out any better. As like over his shoulder, Lucy and Tom are doing the paperwork, and he holds up like a plate. Like there was a guy at eating lunch who didn't finish his spaghetti, so he starts eating it and he drops it on the floor. And he's like, "Oh, and Tom and Lucy are going to totally fall in love." Drops the spaghetti on the floor. He's like, 5-second rule," which is the nastiest idea of like spaghetti off the floor.
Floor spaghetti.
You don't like spaghetti?
Floor spaghetti.
Oh,
no.
Floorgetti.
Floorgetti. Floor get it.
Are you proud of yourself for that?
Yeah, kind of.
I love spaghetti. How do you feel about spaghetti?
I like spaghetti. Number 1, I don't like watery sauce. Number 2, the sauce has to be robust. Like I hate like the watered down, like nothing. It's just like tomato. Like somebody chopped up some tomatoes and threw it on top of some noodles.
Like the LaCroix of sauce.
Yeah. It's like the skim milk of sauce. Like I want, I like meat in the sauce and lots of good flavor. How about you?
I love spaghetti.
Yeah.
I also prefer a thick sauce.
Yeah. Baked, not, take it either way.
I don't know if I've ever had baked spaghetti.
Oh.
What is this?
It's where they take regular spaghetti and then put more like tons of cheese on top and then bake that.
I'm for it.
Okay. It just takes longer.
Then I'm not for it.
No.
The thing about spaghetti growing up, though, I don't know about you, but my family, we didn't have a lot of money. And we would have spaghetti on Monday, and it would be enough to fill the giant Tupperware bowl that was, when it's not spaghetti week, was also barf bowl. And we would be eating that spaghetti for the rest of the week. You
mean the Tupperware that was perpetually stained red?
Yes.
From the sauce?
From the sauce and the vomit.
From the spaghetti. Oh, man. You're making spaghetti wrong.
What
happened if you had to throw up and there's spaghetti in it?
Well, I mean...
Sacrifices were made.
I mean, you knew what you were getting into when you opened that Tupperware.
Oh.
No, we would not throw up into the spaghetti bowl. But it was, if you were awake enough to choose where you're throwing up, you would go to a toilet, right?
Correct.
The bowl was like in the middle of the night if it was a surprise situation. Like the bowl would just be close to the bed.
Right.
One time I threw up in bushes at the hospital, like right by the door. And I was like, that's like 10. And I looked at my mom, I was like, it's a good thing we're here.
I feel better.
Because my parents didn't always believe when I was sick. Like, oh, you're fine. Like, and I feel that way too with my kids. Like, oh, you're fine. You'll be okay. Yeah. But like, I often felt like I had to prove how sick I was. And so as we're going to the doctor, I'm throwing up on the way into the building. I'm like, I'm glad we're here. Is this enough proof for you, Mom?
What else do you need? Look at all that spaghetti on the ground.
Yeah, it was. Oof.
Yeah, my youngest was sick once, and I thought, I'm like,
trade her in.
Stop being so dramatic. I mean, she was laying on the floor. She's like, I'm so hot. The floor is so cold. I was like, you got to get up. She's like, I can't. My legs don't work. I'm like, oh my gosh, she had E. coli, so my bad.
Oh man. Yeah.
She's fine now. She's fine.
Good. I mean, that was like 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
So
yeah. She said she's been in the hospital multiple times for different other things, but she's fine from that.
She doesn't have E. coli anymore.
No.
That we know of. So
I hope not. I think, well, she's immune to it now. I think she can eat at any Jack in the Box.
Oh, lucky her.
Mm-hmm.
I love Jack in the Box. Speaking of E. coli, the next episode focuses on Jeremy Jamm, who has IBS.
Mm-hmm.
So
another diaper,
another intestinal distress. So Leslie comes into Jeremy's office, and he's like, "Nope, my girl, what up? I just farted."
Oh, glad to have you back, Jeremy.
And Leslie's like, "I just thought I would never have to interact with you again." And Jeremy's like, "I missed you too." And so Leslie is reaching out to Jeremy because they're voting on rezoning the Newport land for commercial use. Mm-hmm. So she's trying to get the vote to be a negative vote so that Grizzle can't use the land, so then they won't buy the land. And so Jeremy is the swing vote here. So she comes in and is like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about voting no on the zoning issue." And Jeremy's like, "Whoa, hold up. Before we go any further, I'm going to have to talk to my girlfriend to see how she wants me to vote." And she's like, "Who's your girlfriend?" And then in the doorway over Leslie's shoulder, out of focus, we see the ominous figure of Tammy 2. And she says, "Hello, Leslie." And she's like, "Oh, Jam and Tammy. It's Jammy." And she's like, "Oh, you guys are so cute. Why would either of you, why? Dear God, why?" As they are like overly flirty on Jeremy's desk. And Jeremy, his rationale is like, "She saw me nail Gangsta's Paradise and I saw her bite the door guy. Mm-hmm. Then she let me buy her a bunch of purses. And the rest is history." So then Leslie's like, "Oh, this is great because Ron is my appointment and you live to torture Ron. Vote for me. You can screw Ron over." And Tammy's like, "Yeah, maybe you're not a blonde bimbo after all. So let me think about it." And then Leslie has a talking head. It's like, "Yeah, I'm aligning myself with evil, but think of all the benefit from this national park. It's worth it."
Yeah.
And
she's becoming a politician.
Yes. And the summary of Leslie's whole persona: "You can trust my opinion because I have a lot to gain by being right. And I have severe tunnel vision about achieving my goals." So that's probably the most self-aware thing Leslie Knope has ever said.
Agreed.
So they go to the council meeting, and Ron is there, and he's like, "Miss Knope, how's that $0 bid coming along? In my experience with capitalism, people would normally expect money in exchange for their goods and land." And Leslie's response: "In my experience with butt faces, you are one." And you could see in Ron that kind of hurt,
right?
Like his face, like. So Ron comes up to give his presentation, and when you vote tomorrow, we believe you should vote to rezone the land for commercial use. And Jeremy's like, "Well, I'm convinced. I'm voting for Grizzle." And Leslie's like, "What? You didn't even let me say my plan." And Jeremy's like, "Your plan? You know who else had a plan?"
Please don't say it. Please don't say Hitler.
"I'm with Swanson. It's a stash thing. Stash bros." And Ron walks away and he just looks at Leslie like, "Well, that was easy." And so we have a problem. And so Leslie goes and confronts Ron. It's like, "Why? How did you do this? What did you do?" It's like, "I delivered a flawless presentation." Mm-hmm. And Leslie can't believe it. And she says, "I'm going to read this because it's so much fun. Now you got all sneaky and snuck around and snooked that vote away from me. And I know this because earlier I sneaked and snooked around and Jammy was supposed to vote for me. The snooker has become the snooked." And Ron
what are you talking about?
And then he has a moment of realization as he smells Tammy. Come to find out her perfume is called Girth. So he smells Girth. And he is she's coming over with Jeremy. And it's like, "Hey, you guys are supposed to vote for me." And Tammy's like, "Well, I would never do anything to help you. You've always been against me and Ron. And you're a reason I have to hold on to this placeholder while Ron and I aren't together." And Jeremy's like, I love you so much. So Leslie, you thought you would vote for him, you could win him back. And she's like, yeah. Did it work? Are you horny with gratitude? And Ron, he's in a happy relationship with Diane, and he's got a wonderful family, and he is impervious to Tammy's wiles. And he's like, you two more than deserve each other. Good luck. And he walks away. And so Leslie's like, I have to get Jamm out of this. She's terrible. It's like rescuing a bunny from a lion, but that lion is a demonic sociopath with really nice cleavage. So Leslie goes to meet Jamm at a steakhouse, and like, don't you have IBS? And he's like, oh yeah, it's terrible on the old plumbing, but she only wants me to eat steak and whiskey. And she has my stool analyzed to just keep me honest.
Come on.
I don't think and Leslie, I don't think this relationship's healthy. And so you're like, look, you like cars and spiked iced tea. You have a Hooters Platinum card. And you're like, yeah, I don't get to do any of that stuff anymore. But, it's good. I'm better now. And he starts like crying. Like, I'm depressed. I'm constantly sick and nothing really brings me joy. But it just feels right. And so Leslie is like, let me help. And I was like, remember how everybody thought I was so great? Everybody thought so.
No. Did they?
And he puts his hair on his head and hand on his head, and he comes away. He's like, oh, look, more hair came out. And he's like, ah. So things are not going well for Jamm. And so Leslie reaches out to Ron, like, hey, we need to have a truce. You need to help me break up Jamm and Tammy. And Ron's like, you just want Jamm to switch his votes. This is revenge for Morningstar, which we still don't know what Morningstar is. And Leslie's like, no, it's not about that. It's not about the vote. There's a guy in trouble, and you might be the only one who can help him. This is about saving someone's soul. Mm-hmm. He's like, and Ron's like, he's a monster. Monsters don't have souls. Have you seen Monsters, Inc.? No. So,
Ron punched this guy at Leslie's wedding.
Yeah. He knows he's a terrible person.
Yeah.
So, and Leslie also knows, but the terrible person of Jeremy is not as bad as the terrible person of Tammy. Right? So,
yeah.
Jeremy is there, and she calls it, like, he comes into the door, and he sits down. He's like, Jeremy, this is a gold bar. He pulls out from his drawer. I will give you this gold bar. Yeah. You just keep that there. I'll give you this gold bar if you say one unflattering thing about Tammy. And he's like, if I do, does Tammy get to keep the gold? So Ron is convinced, like, you can't leave a man behind. You must protect yourself against chemical warfare. Tammy does not abide by the Geneva Convention. And so they go to one of Ron's cabins, and Ron is like, all right, I have a deep programming kit. If I ever fell victim to her again, first thing is a chastity belt that he made by hand. He's like, this is too big for you, but you can pat it. And then he's like, first thing, cut out all sex. And Jeremy's like, we haven't done that yet. And Ron's like, okay, that's her last card, and she will play that card when she believes it is beneficial to her. So Leslie's like, all right, so we're going to try a Pavlovian technique. Ron is holding Tammy's perfume girth, and so they spray it and slap him. Spray it and slap him
again,
and over and over again. It's like, how long are we going to do this? Until the bottle is empty. So then they do some role playing with Leslie being Tammy and just being really disgusting. And I don't want to say any of it.
Yeah, I do have to say that her impression of Tammy was spot on. It was so good. Like the way she did her voice, Megan Mullally's voice.
Yeah, it's so bad. And
hey there, horsey.
And Ron is demonstrating. His simple responses are like, there will be no sex today, Tammy.
He just pushes her away like an HR video.
Yeah. Instead, why don't you go into the pet store and feed yourself to the snakes? To hell with you, woman. Goodbye. So that's his line. To hell with you, woman. Goodbye. And then there's another role play where he's wearing like a catcher's mat, mask with like some blinders on the lower area of it. And Jeremy's like, what is that? He's like, it's a crotch blinder of my own design. In this scenario, she will be coming at you pantsless. And then they cut to another scene where they've locked down the house, and it's like, okay, the doors are locked, windows secured. There's no way Tammy's getting in here. And then Leslie pops out of the armoire, and Ron's like, you failed to check the armoire. And Tammy once camped out in my attic for 6 days awaiting my arrival. She survived on rats and rainwater. Let's run it again. So this is quite the deprogramming process.
Right.
And so afterwards, they come back into civilization, and Tammy finds them. Is like, "Hey, Jer Bear, what are you doing with these two jabronis?" And Jeremy's like, "Wait,
hold on. Sorry, you got to set the scene of where they are."
Okay.
No,
remind me.
They're in the library.
Yes. Okay. Sorry.
Only because Leslie hates the library so very much.
Yeah, they're going to her place of power.
Oh yeah, going into the den of the beast.
Yeah, which is dangerous. But I mean, this is how confident they are in their deprogramming techniques.
Yeah.
And so Tam's like, or Ron says, I've given a lot of thought. Jeremy says, I've given a lot of thought. We should break up. And he's like, what's the matter? Did these bad people get to you? They just made me realize how unhealthy this is. Literally, all the steak and whiskey. I have to wear a diaper. And she says, that's because you're my little baby. And Leslie's like, we drilled you on this. What do? I'm not a baby. I'm a big boy.
Well, I mean, it wasn't terrible.
I'm a big boy. And Tammy's like, they're just trying to manipulate you. How about this, Leslie? You leave us alone and we swing your vote back to you and help you get your park. And Leslie has to confront this. Like, this is what she wants. Mm-hmm. She's like, no, nice try. Stay strong, Jeremy. It's over, Tammy. And Tammy's like, all right, it's been long enough. What do you say? We consummate our relationship right now. And in the library, she starts taking off all of her clothes. And Leslie is like, what are you doing? And a woman comes up and is like, shh, this is a library. It's like, do you see what's happening here?
It doesn't matter. It's about volume. You can toast your Pop-Tarts on the radiator all day long. But if you raise your voice,
toasting Pop-Tarts is very quiet.
Done. Get out.
Slow cooking your Pop-Tarts is super quiet.
Right.
So the
what about air frying a Pop-Tart?
I bet it's good.
Man.
I don't currently have any Pop-Tarts, so I might have to make a run down to 7-Eleven to get the freshest of Pop-Tarts. So then Jeremy's like, I need the crotch blinder. And Ron is like, no, you don't. Stay strong. You can do this. Just end it. And Tammy's trying to seduce him. And Jeremy says, it's over, Tammy. To hell with you, woman. Goodbye. And they walk away. And Tammy, all blurred out, like, how dare you? You'll be back. They all come back. Turns out,
just throwing racks of bookcases down.
Yeah. So she's terrible. She is a monster. And so Jeremy, they come back to the council chambers, and Jeremy's like, look, I want to let you know, I will be abstaining from the vote today. You two are my all-time best friends. And you brought me back from the brink, so I can't choose sides. Although if I had to pick one side, it'd be lose backside, which is like, Jeremy's back.
Jeremy's back.
And Leslie's like, well, that was all for nothing. And Ron said, well, if it wasn't for you, this kid would have been destroyed. And it was big of you to not bend when Tammy promised you the vote. And Leslie's like, well, wouldn't have been very big of you. It was... Sorry. She said, it's big of you to help him at all. You didn't have to do that. Okay. And they have this moment of recognition. And she's like, well, back to work to figure out how to destroy you. And Ron's, same. Goodbye. And they walk away in other directions.
I just love that too, because it's like, no matter how bad Morningstar is, and we don't know about it yet, at least reconciliation is a possibility, it seems like now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they could be friends again, because we don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that they're not friends.
Yeah. I mean, someday they will be friends again, right? I mean, I see them on TV. They make shows together still. But I know that's not real life. The shows they make now are not real life.
Never has been.
Never. So yeah, so that's season 7, episode 2, Jammy. Another trivia piece here is that on IMDb says Hitch 2 has not yet been made, which we covered. But in the library, you can see Rob Lowe's book, Love Life, in the background. And Rob Lowe played Chris Traeger. And the other item here is the lawyer is the actor is Victoria Herzog. And Herzog is the last name of famed documentary filmmaker Werner Herzog, who appeared in the previous episode as the creepy house owner. And hopefully they will continue that theme of Herzogs.
Love Life is currently rated at 4.4 on Amazon.
4.4 out of 5.
3.7 out of 5 on Goodreads. 4.5 on Audible.
Interesting.
It's his memoir.
He's written a few memoirs now. He's kind of Joan Kalamazoo-ing.
I was going to say, is it up to 7 yet?
Because he has Stories I Only Tell My Friends, Love Life, and just the 2 of them, I guess. Literally with Rob Lowe. The Outsiders, the complete novel written by somebody else that he's in the movie of.
I don't think that counts.
I have this book called Stone Fox by John Reynolds Gardner and Greg Hargreaves is also on this list.
Yeah, sweet. So William Henry Harrison, season 7, episode 3.
This one's great.
This one where they have the giant ball of whatever for the voting. I forget what that was.
Tippecanoe and Tyler too.
That's right.
William Henry Harrison was a hero of the Indian Wars in Indiana, and by hero I mean terrible person. And his campaign was really one of the first like presidential campaigns with like gimmicks and stuff.
Right.
And so like they had a slogan, Tippecanoe and Tyler too, because he came to prominence at the Battle of Tippecanoe. And Tyler was his vice president. And so, yeah. He got really sick and died very quickly into his term. The end. Oh.
But at least Pawnee has a museum dedicated to him.
Of course, because he's from Indiana. So, and it's the guy who is also part of the Pawnee Historical Society. So when the Newports are throwing the party for Nick Sr.
Yeah.
And the 94 meetings episode, one of the meetings is with the same guy that's in the next episode who runs the Tyler camp or whatever.
Gotcha.
Or Harrison Foundation. So, yeah, they all come together. This town, these characters, they exist. They keep them. They don't just like say, "Oh, that was a fun one-off," but they're like, "No, let's get that guy back for some more boring history stuff." So, and I really just killed the end of this episode talking about President William Henry Harrison, but his grandson Benjamin Harrison was the first president to have electricity installed in the White House, and he was so nervous to turn it on that he refused to do it. He had other people turn the light switches on for him
because he didn't want to get electrocuted.
Yeah. So.
Huh? Worked out. He's still alive.
He is long dead.
Oh.
But not from electricity. I think it was malaria got him pretty bad. I can't remember. So, I read a lot of these books.
Tell us more stories about old people and how they died.
You know who's got the best story is Garfield. James Garfield.
Oh yeah, he hates Mondays.
That's why he got shot.
Yep. I'm done with this.
James Garfield was shot, and like it was one of those situations where like if they would have just left the bullet alone, he would have been fine. But they couldn't find the bullet, so they kept probing around in the wound, and
it's
it got infected.
Somewhere.
And like Alexander Graham Bell, like was a part of trying to solve this. Like he had developed some kind of like magnetic sonar type of technology for like the telephone and stuff. And so he's trying to sound into his body and like magnet the bullet away, but like moving it made it worse. And like just let James Garfield be, and then maybe we would have not had such a grumpy cat.
Yeah, and that's also when Alexander Graham Bell invented the game Operation.
Exactly right. Exactly right. A lot of people don't know that. That's actually a self-portrait of Alexander Graham Bell.
On the table.
On the table. No genitals, just...
Nope. Just a big red nose that lights up.
And
because he was a raging alcoholic. I don't know. What?
Yeah, of course. And just telling how deaf people aren't allowed to be deaf. And he was kind of a terrible person too, turns out. A lot of these older people in history were kind of terrible. Are people learning these things in schools anymore?
No. That's the problem.
Let me tell you about how awful Helen Keller was. She wasn't, as far as I know. But what can we know for sure?
Nothing. So, other than hopefully we'll be back next week. And we'll talk about more. Hopefully Jason will have more awesome presidential trivia for us during a very special presidential episode of Parks and Conversation.
I'd be happy to do that. Calvin Coolidge had a pet raccoon. I'll talk to you later.
All right, man. Bye.